Hi, class. My name is Caitlin Silva, and here are some of the formative assessments that I used in my lesson plan. I did fourth grade English language arts, and the standards that I used were about point of view, including the difference between first and third person narrations, and also the difference between first-hand and second-hand accounts of the same event. And so I integrated a history standard in my lesson about the gold rush. So students are analyzing different perspectives, points of views, and firsthand and secondhand accounts of the gold rush. Here are my learning intentions. So students are going to compare and contrast the point of view from different stories in the first and third person narration, analyze how point of view can affect stories, differentiate firsthand and secondhand accounts of the same event, and create different points of views and firsthand and secondhand accounts of the gold rush through gathering evidence from their reading to support their writing. So here are all the activities I have listed here in the lesson. So students are going to use firsthand and secondhand accounts of the gold rush. So they're going to compare and contrast two texts. For example, a journal entry or a memoir versus a newspaper article about the gold rush, and discuss how the event is portrayed across varying viewpoints. And students will further understand point of view by creating a comic strip in groups, discussing and debating a topic from two different points of view, so both sides. At the end of the day, students will choose a research center with their favorite key historical figure we've studied in class to research further. So this will look like different research centers dedicated to different perspectives of the gold rush, a woman's perspective, a key historical figure we've studied, a miner's perspective, an immigrant's perspective and experience, and so on. And students will collaboratively research and use computers and other resources such as letters, journals, memoirs, articles, so on, provided. And take that, and in their performance task, they will individually create a journal entry of that person's experience of the gold rush in first person, and then rewrite it in third person and compare and contrast it using a Venn diagram, and answer the question, how does changing or switching point of view affect your stories? So these are all the formative assessments that I used in my lesson. And what I didn't go over was all of the instruction and checks for understanding I did along the way to lead up to all of the activities and performance tasks that we did. So, of course, before the lesson, I wanted to activate background knowledge. I used a think, pair, share strategy, but I'm not going to teach you about that because I feel like a lot of people are familiar with that one. So also in the beginning of the lesson, I did a formative assessment strategy called carousel brainstorming, and I want to talk to you about that one and how to implement that one. So because my standards cover comparing and contrasting, and we fill out a lot of graphic organizers and Venn diagrams during the lesson, and the performance task is based on comparing and contrasting, I thought I want to make sure that my students know how to compare and contrast. And so carousel brainstorming, what you want to do with that is split up the class into groups if they're not already, and each group will get their own large paper chart and colored marker. And the idea is to have each group write down what they know about a topic, everything that they know, in this case, comparing and contrasting. And place a time limit on each group. And what you want to have them do is either pass their chart along to another group, or what I like is just move from table to table, to chart as a kinesthetic activity to move around. And students are going to read each other's groups and what they've recorded for their answers, and then also just add to their list. And they can highlight what they feel really hit the mark, or add question marks to answers they feel missed a mark or they didn't understand. And when the charts have been viewed by each group, we can review them as a class. And what's great is that the students can use these charts if you put them up in the classroom on the wall and use it during the lesson to make comparisons, or when they're summarizing information or writing their essays. So what's important during this formative assessment is to be sure to walk around the classroom while the charts are being made, and you can make observations and anecdotal recordings. And note engagement levels for the students and for their understanding, and which can be used to adapt your instruction accordingly. And so once I feel like they really understand comparing, contrasting, I move on. So for the performance task, I already went over it. They do journaling, Venn diagram, a quick write, and then the rubric I designed for assessing the performance tasks, the students are actually going to use that as a formative assessment in itself to self-assess. And here's my rubric right here. I want to start by differentiating the rubric and modifying it into a easy to follow checklist. So students can self-assess and check off the success criteria as they go along. And it can really be chunked there and easy to follow for some of the students that may, I can tell you right now, just looking at this, it can be kind of hard to navigate, especially for a fourth grader. So I would turn this rubric into an easy to follow checklist. And I would differentiate the carousel brainstorming by grouping students based on mixed abilities. So each group has a good mix of levels, and they can really help each other and come up with some great stuff for their brainstorming. Thank you.